Welcome to Natural Texas, a video workshop. This is a blank Regions of Texas map. There are 4. I colored and labeled them like this. My color system means something to me. It helps me when studying and memorizing things. For example, the coastal plains are blue because they border the Gulf of Mexico, and blue reminds me of water. You'll find that Native Americans who lived on the Gulf of Mexico often fished and other water activities in order to survive. The Great Plains are colored green because plains are like wide open fields of grass. You'll find that Native Americans along the Great Plains area often were nomadic, meaning they moved around a lot because they were chasing buffalo, which was their source of food, clothing, housing, tools, etc. The mountains and basins are colored kind of a deserty color because out in West Texas, in the mountains and basins area, you'll find desert and mountains. Native Americans there often made their houses of adobe, which is a clay-like material. Now, elevation was a vocabulary word. In this case, it means height above sea level. If you will look at this map, I have the lowest elevation along the coastal plains because it is at sea level, the Gulf of Mexico, and the highest elevation in mountains and basins because mountains are tall. This is a blank political map of Texas. Political maps often feature boundaries, cities, and in this case, many rivers. I have drawn in and colored the regions because it helps me to place things in my mind. I have also labeled, as I asked you to do, the bordering states like New Mexico, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. Because these states border Texas, they share some of the same characteristics as the region they border. For example, Louisiana is very similar to the coastal plains in its climate. New Mexico is very similar to the mountains and basins or Great Plains region. Also, I have the border rivers labeled. The Red River serves as the boundary between Oklahoma and Texas. The Rio Grande serves as the boundary between Texas and Mexico, while the Gulf of Mexico borders the Gulf Coast. The Sabine River separates Louisiana and Texas. You will also see that El Paso is located in the mountains and basins region as the largest and most important city, whereas we here in Houston and Galveston are in the Gulf Coast Plains. The 4 regions of Texas continues, and I've carried my color coding through. These are some of the common characteristics of each region listed in a table form. If the mountains and basins is your jam, let's talk about it. El Paso, do you remember El Paso from this map? Orange, El Paso, West Texas. Orange, El Paso, mountains and basins, West Texas. In El Paso, it is very arid. That means dry, kind of deserty. The summers are hot, the winters are cold. In the coastal plains, you have several different regions: Piney Woods, Gulf Coastal Plains, South Texas. It's also where Houston, Galveston, and Brownsville are. That's why when you think about Galveston, you probably picture water because it's along the Gulf Coast. Now, let's talk about Native Americans. If you look here, I have a star next to the Jumano Indians. It's colored orange because they're in the mountains and basins region, and they make their houses of adobe. Adobe looks like this, deserty colored, made from the clay and dirt around there. An interesting thing is that they had a farming community. Now, you don't really think about farming in the desert, but they used irrigation from the Rio Grande. That means that they took water and rerouted it from the river to their gardens. You know that farmers have permanent communities because you can't leave your crops or they will die. The Caddo Indians and the Karankawa Indians lived along the Gulfstream Plains. Remember, it's blue because it reminds us of water. The Caddo Indians lived in East Texas, while the Karankawa lived on the Gulf Coast. Now, fun fact about the Caddo Indians, they had a word, Tejas, which became Texas. Also, remember, if you're close to water, you probably fish. Karankawa Indians fished and did other water activities. Finally, let's look at these Plains Indians and even some West Texas Indians. They were home to Native Americans who were nomadic. Nomadic means they roamed around because they followed their main source of food, the buffalo. Nomadic moved around a lot because they were following buffalo along the grassy plains. Now, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you should watch this video again. Bye-bye.